Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battleground. This is a podcast where Battle and friends talk all things wrestling and laugh with comedians that are way funnier than him. And you never know who's going to stop by. Here is your host, Battle.
All right, we are back. It is a new week. It is a new episode of Battleground where myself, Battle, Eli is right across from me.
What's up?
We talk wrestling.
Boom.
Not wrestling. Wrestling. You got to get it right.
Southern wrestling.
So I watched Raw last night, and it's very... You could tell nobody really wanted to be there.
Yeah, it was pretty strange. I don't remember if I text you or you text me, but the crowd was just snoozing. I mean, nothing got them excited.
There was literally nothing, and we were texting back and forth of the day, and it was like, Alicia Fox is going to wrestle Becky Lynch, and I'm like, what? Like, the girl that supposedly cost Arn Anderson his job is now getting a title shot.
Yeah, and it was rough.
Like, I watched that match, and I was like, okay, I already know what's going to happen. It's going to be a squash match. Lacey Evans is going to come out. Boom, boom. Calls the match. That's it, the end. And there was, what, three that we saw botched spots in the match?
Yeah, it was pretty strange. And then even when Lacey hit Becky Lynch, it was kind of a botched hit, you know? So, I don't know. It was very, very strange. But, yeah, I mean, they, like, you know, they set up AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, which for a lot of people was a dream match, and I mean the crowd was just snoozing. I was surprised.
And you know, I sat there and I kind of went back and forth between that and watching the Preds game.
Ugh.
And yeah, we're not going to talk about that today. But it's just like, I don't know if this is them trying to figure out what's going on leading up to the next pay-per-view. I mean, you could tell that they're still trying stuff out. Once again, they changed the Viking War Experience name again.
Mm-hmm.
And even the commentators during the match was like, the Viking Experience, and then they said something different, and then...
Yeah, I think that was just kind of a cluster. And even, you know, before Raw yesterday, they've already switched some people back to SmackDown.
Right.
So the shuffle's already been shuffled. And, you know, part of that, you know, so the bar broke up, which I'm okay with. I like Cesaro. I think he deserves to be a bigger, you know, singles guy. But they split up Ricochet and Aleister Black.
Which I think is a good call.
Yeah, that was, you know, and I mean, you've talked about it. That reminded me of when Finn Balor and Samoa Joe tag teamed and they won the Dusty Rhodes Classic.
Right.
I mean, it's cool for a limited time, but I mean, I don't think they signed Ricochet just to be a tag team guy or Aleister Black.
No.
And then, of course, you know, Mr. Robert Roode made his debut.
That was probably the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and let me see if I can find this. Somebody had sent me, maybe it was you or a friend of mine, Chris. He sent a screenshot of a tweet that somebody put a caption of Bobby Roode or Robert Roode with his mustache. And it's like, the caption was, nobody's trying to replace your dad, but your mom and I are getting serious, and I'd like for us to be friends. And it's just like this photo right here. It's the greatest thing in the world.
Oh,
and
man.
like, to be completely honest, I thought that he was going to cut a promo and be like, the fat out of shape men, and going back to the old, you know, ravishing Rick Rude days. Because that's what it seems like they're about to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of appreciate that they're paying homage to Rick Rude, obviously, even though, you know, it's different spelling. But he's another head scratcher, and I mean, we could probably spend a whole show about this, but you know, there's been so many people called up from NXT that have just nothing's happened. And I'm not talking about like they just called him up. I'm talking about like, you know, Bobby Roode was the world champion down there. I mean, he was the guy. Mm-hmm. And he was over. I mean, as soon as that music hit, people just lost their mind. And he comes up here, he comes to the main roster, and
he gets like what? The U.S. title, and I think the Intercontinental.
I remember the U.S. maybe both. I don't know, but it's I mean, and then the tag titles, which was weird because he wasn't a tag team wrestler. Well, he was in TNA.
Yes, which I still wish that Beer Money would get back together. So James Storm, if you're listening, come
on up. Yeah. So, but I was surprised that he got the win. He beat Ricochet, and Ricochet's been nothing but hot since he came up. So, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
What I want to see though is, and it's interesting that WWE is kind of doing this, but it's like they move Alistair to SmackDown, which his wife is on SmackDown.
Yeah.
They move Andrade back to SmackDown because he had a really good match with Finn, but his girlfriend's on SmackDown.
Yeah. And I was reading that Charlotte might have had some pull in that
I wouldn't be
decision.
surprised if she had some pull. I think that she stays on SmackDown. There's no way that they're going to move her.
No, and I mean, they generally try to keep the couples together. I mean, WWE actively tries to do that anyway. So when the original shakeup happened, some of those decisions were head scratchers anyway. But now they've kind of rectified it. But going back to the crowd thing, I think it's just you had. The week before WrestleMania, and then you had the whole WrestleMania week, and then you had the WrestleMania after all, and then you had the shakeup. So, I mean, like, you just had a lot of big stuff happen.
Right.
So I think it's just kind of like fatigue,
And you sit there, and I think the one thing I took away from Raw is the weird Bray Wyatt promo.
Yeah, I was wondering when we were getting to this.
Like, watching it and seeing how things played out, I wouldn't be surprised if a certain former wrestler by the name of Abyss has his hands in this promo. Just the way everything seemed, and the buzzard sounded kind of like Abyss. So
yeah, it's kind of one of the dirt sheets, they were saying that it was all Bray's idea, and he, for those that don't know, his girlfriend JoJo is pregnant. And this was his idea of being like kid friendly, and it's like nightmare fuel though. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not very kid friendly.
And you sit there, and I'm watching the promo, and they do the thing where it's like, what was it, hurt and heal, and he puts the gloves on, and it goes all glitchy and whatnot, and then the buzzard and the witch. And then I was sitting, and then the chainsaw popped out, and I was like, I wonder if Chainsaw Charlie's about to come out. Terry Funk's going to kick down the door with the stocking over his head.
He's probably still taking bumps, too.
Probably. But it's just, I watch it, and I was like, okay, this has potential to be completely just fucked up.
Yeah.
And I think that Abyss does have, has his hands in this. I mean, this storyline literally is Abyss.
Yeah. Well, and, once they signed him and they determined he wasn't going to wrestle, it was mainly for a booker. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But, Bray looks more in shape.
He's buffed up.
Yeah, he took the time off to, I think, really hit the gym and get back in shape and stuff. So, we'll see. I mean, most of the people that I've seen are like, they're about it. They're like, we're here for this. This is crazy, Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
And it's like, the weeks leading up to this, it's like very dark with the puppet and the witch, and then all of a sudden it's like, here comes Mr. Rogers coming through.
Yeah.
But it's like, it could have something to do, it could turn completely left on everybody. And does Nikki Cross come into play with this? Ooh. Does he get a faction again? I mean, Bray Wyatt, he's great as a faction, and he's great as a single wrestler too. But I think his shining moment is when he has, people around him.
Yeah, as a group. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think if it was different enough from the Bray family, or the Wyatt family, excuse me, I think it could work, but. It's kind of like, to me, the Wyatt family was kind of a dud, It didn't really, I think everyone was, and, they gave him the belt not too long ago, and he dropped it, and then he had that terrible match with Orton, and,
the one in the house?
Yeah, and then they had with the worms on the mat and all that stuff.
The weird thing, the boogeyman came back for like a hot split second.
Yeah, and so, everyone was just like losing their minds that he actually got the belt. So I think the company obviously still believes in him. They're still going on, pushing along with all this stuff. But I think the Wyatt family was kind of a dud, overall. And I think if they do something different from that, I think a stable could work.
And that's, I really think that it's best for him to get a stable.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. I think that depending on which brand he goes to, because, I mean, they split Sanity up. And I've said this weeks ago. Eric Young is over here. You have the other two guys and Nikki Cross just sitting around.
Yeah.
Right there, Nikki Cross could be your sister Abigail, because she's already batshit crazy as a character anyway.
Yeah.
And she's perfect. They just haven't figured out what to do with her.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another one. I mean, she was just awesome in NXT, and so far, she really hasn't done much. One of the Sanity guys, the Wolf guy, Alexander Wolf, he went to NXT UK.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing something with Walter now, so that'll be good. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I like Bray Wyatt. I think his move set, especially for a bigger guy, is awesome. Just for some reason, he just hadn't turned that corner,
Right.
So
let's kind of backtrack a little bit. I know Raw was last night, but there was something that took place in Nashville this past Sunday, and Southern Underground Pro had their big show over at the Basement East. You were there. Unfortunately, I was doing the dad thing, playing Easter egg hunt with the kids. So let's get your review on that show.
I mean, for me, and obviously a little biased because I know the guys that run it, and became friends with a lot of people that attend the show and all that. But I mean, for an Easter Sunday, it was packed. I mean, there was probably between 100 and 200 people there, and if you've been to the Basement East, that's a lot,
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's each show they do one. I think it's every other month. I mean, it just gets better and better. Marco Stunt, which I don't know how many people know who that is, but he's a big indie guy now. He blew up within like a 3-month period last year. He wrestled in around the Mania season, and he got the eye of well, I'm drawing a blank. But anyways, he ended up wrestling. He was at All In Chicago, and he faced off. He was in the Battle Royal, and he wrestled with like Bully Ray, and and he's wrestled with Joey Janela, and so I mean he's really like made a name for himself, and he's like 5 foot tall. I mean, he's a really little guy. So he's been injured. He hurt his knee. He was out, and he made his return, and he was awesome. It was a good match. But yeah,
I remember seeing about, I guess, on Twitter about his injury. I think somebody suplexed him and he landed, and it either broke or shattered or cracked or something, and he was out for a while.
Yeah, something. I mean, it was a pretty bad injury, but yeah, I mean, I just got something in my eye. But yeah, I mean, they're awesome. I mean, they bring in, Tennessee guys. They bring in, one guy was from Venice Beach, California, came in to wrestle for the show. We've had the Carnies on here. They've wrestled at that show before. So I mean, it's just, you're not going to see a lot of mainstream guys, but I mean, it's a lot of the guys in the indies that are really making a name for themselves. And I mean, it's money well spent each time they put on a show.
And, I was sitting there just kind of watching on Insta Story, and everything just looked phenomenal. And one of these days, I'm going to literally take time off and stop being dad for a day or a couple of hours at least, and come check this out. Because every time I've seen something, I'm like, I'm going to go, and then something comes up, and then I get really pissed off at myself because I'm like, damn. I literally missed a good show, and I definitely will be at the next Southern Underground Pro show. Yeah. So let's see, what else should we talk about? Should we talk about the big match? Because you're going to Vegas for Double or Nothing, and it was announced that the match of Cody Rhodes will be taking on none other than Big Brother Goldust.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on this?
I was really surprised that they pulled it off. There had been rumors about it for a little bit. I assumed it was like most contracts, and there would be a no compete clause or something. And but no, they released him, and there's no hangups or anything like that. So I think they've done it a handful of times in WWE. I was reading one thing; it was at a house show that it wasn't even televised or anything. So, but I think Cody is a much different performer than he was 5 years ago. So
right.
I think it's going to be a different ball game altogether. So I don't know, man. That's I think me and you were talking about it. He's labeling it as his last ride, so I don't know if that means like this is his last match, or he's going to be in AEW for one last run. Like I don't know what that means.
It's going to be the Shield. It's the last ride.
There you go.
For now.
Yeah. But I don't. I really don't know who's gonna. I don't. Normally if it's your last match, you lose. Going out. But I can definitely see Cody trying to put him over one last time. So I don't know. It's definitely intriguing. And I'm surprised that they pulled it off. So
and I watched the promo video of Dusty talking about everything and like him explaining the new face paint and like I got goosebumps watching the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be exciting, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. And one thing that kind of, I guess, me and you talked about in a text message was something happened over the weekend at like this random indie event where a guy comes running in with a mask on, hits the GTS in the middle of the ring, hobbles out of the ring, and leaves. And the speculation was everybody, holy crap, CM Punk is coming back to wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading, again in the dirt sheets. Somebody was saying that he's done this several times since like 2015. Like this isn't the first time he's done it. It's just the first time that people are actually like, "Oh, I think that's really him."
Right. And I was sitting there and I'm trying to find it. A friend of mine had tweeted me the story about it and was like, "Oh my God, check this out." And then next thing you know, I look and Silas Young likes the tweet. And I was like, maybe he knows something that I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so I did some more digging, and people were showing photos of Punk earlier that day wearing the exact same violent gentleman shirt, jumps in the ring. And of course, me and you had that conversation that he's lost some weight. I wouldn't be surprised if that masked person shows up at Double or Nothing just to give the Vince the middle finger.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those. We talked about it at the cigar thing with Cody and Frankie here in Nashville. It's kind of I like that he quit on his own terms. I don't think that's the way he wanted to quit, but I think he was like, I've had enough. This is it. And especially with the misdiagnosis of the staph infection, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's legit. He could have died. So. I like that he's left and he's never came back, and he's probably had to answer that question every day for 5 years, and he's still like, I'm done. On the other hand, I think him coming back to screw Vince would be motivation.
Right. And it's,
so, Vince is scared. Believe it or not, Vince they're scared about AEW.
And
I think
they're noticing it. There's a reason why Hunter threw some jabs at the Hall of Fame. There's a reason why commentators are throwing these jabs, and I'm like, you're literally talking about your competition to people.
Yeah, I mean they're starting to re-sign people with more money. A lot, people with 2 years left on their deal. They're like, hey, cool, we're going to go ahead and re-sign you, and throw in extra money and stuff. And so I mean, I think they're. They don't want it to be a WCW 2 where they lose a lot in the ratings for a while and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're starting to brace themselves now. I mean, even Dave Meltzer on Twitter said it was CM Punk. So I mean, I think it's kind of like,
and he's about pretty much 95% correct most of the time.
Yeah, he's pretty most of the time he's pretty accurate. So if that happens, I'll probably lose my mind. But everyone thought it was going to happen at All In because it was in Chicago. So obviously, why wouldn't it happen? And it didn't. So, I don't know. Punk's he's a weird guy. I mean, he just wrestled, or he just competed in jiu-jitsu contest?
I think so. Is what I saw. Something
Brazilian black something.
Something with mixed martial arts.
And came in third. He came in last. And, that was under the radar. It wasn't, he didn't go out tooting his horn. He just went and did it. So, on the one hand, I see that he's definitely a guy of his strong convictions, but also, like I said, if he could kind of stick the knife into Vince a little bit.
Oh, and he is. And it's like a few months back, we had Jim Ross on. And I kind of talked to him about this situation. I believe it was with Jim Ross, about Vince being worried about AEW and all these other wrestling things. And he said it's never, if I remember correctly, JR said that Vince isn't worried about other wrestling because it's not going to be like it was back in the day, because he's got pretty much global domination.
Oh, yeah.
But he said these small name, wrestling organizations are starting to get on his radar, which is why Vince sends out scouts to these local wrestling shows. And that's why you see on Twitter, Hunter was spotted at whatever, or, you see these wrestlers being spotted here at these places. Yeah. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen the moment that AEW says, here's our TV deal. We're on TNT, TBS, whatever Ted Turner wants to put them on. Because I knew Ted Turner, he still had that itch. After losing the Monday Night Wars, he knew he was just plotting his time waiting to get back. And I think this is it. But it just depends on how he positions it, how they do the TV deal, and what night they air it on.
Yeah. Well, and, it was funny because I was convinced that it was going to be the NWA, because they've been talking about, Billy Corgan's been very cryptic about, we're getting back in, we're going to get back into a TV deal. And somebody had said something, it was something with history and wrestling. I was like, well, there's not many big, quote unquote, big channels that have a lot of history with wrestling. TNT, USA, TBS, so, kind of pointed to signs that's where it was going. And that was when Cody won the title. But then shortly after that is when the AEW thing started falling into place. So it might just be one of those things where, Cody was the spearhead, and it just changed companies. It just went from NWA to AEW, which I would have loved to have seen NWA. That would have been incredible to see that on TBS again. But
and with, like you said, with Billy running the show, I mean, he's got the money. He's not. I mean, he doesn't have Vince money, but he's got money to put forward.
He doesn't have AEW money.
No, not at all. And the thing is Billy's doing a good job running NWA. These random pop-up shows that they do. Then you've got the Crockett tournament that's happening. Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, that should be that's this weekend. That should be a good event. I was going to try to go to that, but it was just a little bit farther of a drive than I wanted to do. But, it's kind of a... I kind of wonder where they'll fall, where their place will be, because... I think they're going to be obviously bigger than an indie just because of the lineage and stuff, but they're not going to be a WWE competitor or an AEW competitor. So, I think the big thing that they've done is, they've got Nick and Marty for the world title at the Crockett Cup. And, Marty's predominantly an Ring of Honor guy and then New Japan. So taking the NWA title at all the different places like it was in the old days, like that's awesome. I love that they're doing that, and Cody was doing it as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll create their own, the NWA app, and you just download it on your TV, and they have their own shows on Monday nights or something. I don't know, whatever. But
it'd be a smart idea and just charge a monthly subscription.
Yeah. But I think AEW, I think it's going to – the big thing is I don't think JR would have came on board that soon after his deal expired if there wasn't like a plan. You know what I mean?
Especially with the deal that they gave him.
Yeah. I mean, with him, I think he's 66 this year. He's made the WWE money. He's got his barbecue sauce. He tours. He was just in Nashville. That was with Jerry Lawler, right? Mm-hmm. They did their thing at Zany's. So, I mean, he doesn't have to do it. I mean, I think he's given enough to the business, but I think the plan that's in place with that deal that they got, I think it's coming soon. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced it at Double or Nothing during the telecast. But You know, you still have the people online that are jabbing like, oh, they're just a T-shirt company and all this. Like, well, yeah, but they have some of the best talent in the world right now. So
yeah, and it's like I was sitting there because I follow pro wrestling tees, and I think I just read earlier today that they have hit the $5 million mark on giving back to the people selling their T-shirts on there.
Oh, wow.
And that was the big thing is we both pull our phone out. I think that I was correct. They hit $5 million. Let's look and see real quick. We'll pull up our phone, which, by the way, speaking of phone, if you have your phone in your hand, Battleground now has an Instagram page.
Yes.
Which you could follow us. Just follow Battleground Podcast. We kind of just post some random stuff on there and whatnot. But, yeah, let's see. Pro Wrestling Tees. They have paid out $5 million in royalty as of 3 hours ago.
Yeah. So that's for the wrestlers themselves. And the cool thing is, you know, wrestlers, I mean, people that wrestle at the Southern Underground, I mean, they can go make their own store and sell, and they do a pretty good job of splitting the commissions and stuff. So that's awesome. That's a big milestone.
So speaking of another big milestone, love how this transition right there. How about that?
There you go.
So on June 1st, it is sad to say, but the Fairgrounds is going away, and there's a lot of history at the Fairgrounds. I remember seeing tons of wrestling there. TNA, Main Event Wrestling. I mean, so many great memories at the Fairgrounds, and they're shutting it down for a soccer field. But the guys at Overdrive Wrestling and House of Hardcore, they got together. One last show, House of Hardcore, Tommy Dreamer's wrestling organization, got together to put on the last show at the Fairgrounds on Saturday, June 1st. And one thing that me and Eli are kind of looking forward to, which we kind of knew about because of the cigar event, one of the matches that has been confirmed is the Rock and Roll Express versus Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. And super excited about that one. Yeah.
When we talked to Frankie at the cigar pop-up a couple weeks ago, you could tell he was just stoked. That's one of those, you know, you take a modern tag team that's been really dominant, and now of course they're heavily involved in AEW, and then you take legendary tag team, especially they just went in the Hall of Fame either this year or last year, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a lot of people forget, like Ricky Morton at one time, he was one of the top like baby faces in wrestling. I mean, he was the NWA World Champion. In the 80s, that's you know, he was rubbing elbows with Flair and Dusty Rhodes and
the
Terry
cream of
Funk.
the crop.
I mean, they took him aside from the tag team and made him the top guy. So I mean, they for a lot of people, especially of a certain age, they are, you know, top 5 for sure. So that's definitely one that you wouldn't think you would see, you know, but on paper pretty wild.
And it just so happens that on the show today, like I said in the beginning, you never know who's going to stop by. So Frank Griffin, the guy who is the man at Overdrive Wrestling, is in the studio today, and he's going to tell us all about the event. So without further ado, I'm going to let Eli introduce Frank.
Thank you. Here today, we... You have to get that out.
We're just going to leave this like this because this is the greatest outtake reel right now. So let's get our announcer guy to say, let's get ready to rumble, and then we'll get Frank in the studio.
Let's get ready to rumble.
This is a very exciting time for us because, as you know, if you've listened to the show before, you know that we are big advocates for wrestling at the Fairgrounds. And it's very sad to see the Fairgrounds go away, but there is something happening on June 1st. Farewell to the Fairgrounds Overdrive presents. Freaking phenomenal lineup, and it just so happens the man that runs the place, Frank Griffin, is in the studio with us right now to talk about it. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So let's talk about this. How did it all start?
Well, it's really weird. I had Tommy on one of Tommy Dreamer, which he promotes House of Hardcore. He was on one of my shows, and we didn't get a chance to visit very much. We didn't get a chance to talk very much. He was busy, I was busy, that sort of thing. And he had made mention in passing, hey, you know, I really like Nashville. It's a good town. Maybe we could do something together. So I said, okay, cool. I thought he was just being nice, just being courteous and everything. Well, couple months go by, and I think to myself, well, you know, I need to get something going pretty soon. So I'm going to text Tommy and just see if he was for real, if he was serious. And it turns out he was. So we had a conversation, put our heads together, and landed on this date. So that's how we came to promote this one together, and we're real excited about it. And
it looks like a good card, and I see Eli just kind of rummaging through, looking at the flyer. So let's what do you got over there, Eli?
Well, I mean, probably the one that jumps out is Rock and Roll Express against Daniels and Kazarian. We met Mr. Kazarian last week or 2 weekends ago, and he was even excited about it. I mean, he was just like, we've been on cards before, and he's like, I thought we were going to get a chance to, and we're not. And I mean, he was plugging it a couple weeks ago. So that one definitely, growing up, 80s and 90s kids, the Rock and Roll Express were. They were the guys, So that one sticks out. I see Willie Max on there. He, 9 times out of 10, he steals the show when he's on the card. So I think it looks pretty stacked, man. I think this will be a good send off.
So let's talk about that one match though, the Rock and Roll Express versus Daniels and Kazarian. How did you get this to form together?
Well, I can't personally take too much credit for that. That's mostly Dreamer. He kind of put that together. We decided that we really wanted rock and roll because of the history and the legacy and that sort of thing. Ricky and Robert always have good standing at the Fairground. So, and I might have made a suggestion that we need to put them with some guys that can really make an impact and maybe come up with some kind of dream match. Well, Dreamer took the ball from there, ran with it, and came up with SoCal Uncensored. So, I mean, that match has never happened before this date. I don't know if it'll ever happen again afterwards. So we just thought that would make an amazing, collision of generations. So we were happy to do it. It's really exciting.
And, you kind of look around, and that's, so far right now, that's about the only match that's been announced, right?
So far.
And there's still, I'm just looking at it, and you've got, let's see, the FBI reunion, Bill Dundee's coming, Swoggl's going to be there. I mean, you're bringing history back to the Fairgrounds one last time.
There is so much potential. I can tell you this, right now, I don't want to get too far away from rock and roll and SCU, but the card that we are going to throw together is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be the most exciting one we've done, and I dare say the most exciting one House of Hardcore has done. So, when you get Swoggle in there, we've got Mikey, we've got LT Falk. Who else do we have on there? We've got Willie Mack.
Is that Crimson, I think?
Crimson and Jax Dane, the War Kings. They're going to be there in action. I mean, there's just so many top to bottom good talent that's going to be on that show. So the card's just gonna blow the roof off the place.
And me and Eli kind of go back and forth, and we saw the other day about the belt. Can we talk about the belt, how beautiful this thing looks?
Sure. I designed that belt myself.
Nice.
It was I wanted something with all the flags on it and everything, but I didn't want it to be too cliche or too traditional or too new. So I wanted to try to do a mixture of both, and that's what we came up with. Of course, we want our logo right in the center of the thing.
You have to.
But we're happy with how it turned out. We really are. The guys at Wildcat did a great job designing it. They kind of fit the vision. So, and here pretty soon after we get through with this show, we'll be having a tournament to crown the first ever new Overdrive champion.
Now that you say that tournament, I think I'm going to throw my name in there just because I want the belt.
Yeah, for real.
So I'm calling my shot right now. I'm throwing my name in the tournament.
I'll send you a list of some trainers. We'll get you good and ready.
Perfect. Jeez. That's what I'm talking about. Our man right now, Frank Griffin, is in the studio. He is the guy that runs Overdrive Wrestling. So where can you get tickets for the show?
houseofhardcore.net. And make sure that it's all one word. You don't want to type in just hardcore.net or anything.
Yeah, because then you want to start clearing that search history real quick.
Mom, I'm studying.
houseofhardcore.net. Yeah.
Now, I did notice the other day, I was kind of looking, what does the VIP package consist of when somebody buys this ticket?
Okay, so the VIP package, you'll get a commemorative chair signed by the entire roster. You get a front row seat, and you get early entry into the meet and greet. And I've got to double check that time, but I think the meet and greet starts at 6 because bell time is at 7. And we're going to have some other things. We're going to have posters. We're going to have the throwback posters. We're going to have commemorative T-shirts available for everybody to purchase there. But that VIP ticket will get you in early, get you a front row seat and a commemorative chair to take home with you. Sell it on eBay, do whatever you want to with it, but it'll be a part of history.
I don't think you'd want to sell something like that on eBay. That's just my personal opinion, man. So I know we're talking about Farewell to the Fairgrounds, but I know that you have another wrestling event that is going down next Saturday in Portland. Can we talk a little bit about that? Just kind of push people to that as well?
Absolutely. So we are, in a very small way, we are partnering with Jason James. He does the Strawberry Slam every year in Portland. And we've got a lot of people coming to that. Jeff Jarrett will be there.
That's Eli's favorite wrestler.
I don't hate Double J. I mean, I think he... I would have to fall short of saying he's my favorite, but I mean, I don't hate Double J. He's a Hall of Famer.
Hey, you know what? To each his own. He's a very good in-ring performer.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a lot of history in the business.
Oh, yeah.
But at that one, you can also find the War Kings, Crimson, Jax Dane. Crazy Steve is going to be there. Crazy Steve is a real fan favorite. And you'll have a micro match. That's Little Fabio versus Enigma. And, of course, you'll have Alex Taylor and a slew of other wrestlers that are going to be there. And that is May 4th at 7 p.m. at the Portland High School in Portland, Tennessee.
There it is. But the big thing that we really want you to be at is Farewell to the Fairgrounds. It is going down Saturday, June 1st. Like Frank said, you can get your tickets at houseofhardcore.net. They're still available, but they are going fast. And, man, this is exciting. We can't wait to see how the show is going to play out.
Yeah, I was going to chime in. So, talking about the history, I mean, how does it feel knowing that you're booking the final wrestling event at the Fairgrounds?
It's a very humbling experience to take part in. Of course, we're excited. We're nervous. We think we're going to deliver. We're confident that we're going to deliver to the wrestling fans. But to have that honor and to have that opportunity, it's just as good as hitting any big time you can think of. I mean, there's so much history there dating back to the 60s and the 70s. So many people, anybody who's anybody has gone through that sports arena. And to be the one that gets to put on the last one ever, I have no words sometimes. It's just very humbling, and we're very honored to do it.
And, it's exciting because we were talking right before the thing happened. My very first wrestling match that I ever saw was at the Fairgrounds, with the exception of some WWF stuff at the time. But I believe it was main event wrestling. And I remember seeing the Volunteers wrestle. One Man Gang was there.
Nice.
And I was like this really eager kid, and I was that one that stood on the guardrail sticking his hand out just to think he was cool to get his high five. So much history there, and it's sad to see it go, but it's awesome to see, you guys putting on this final show and going out with a bang.
Oh yeah, we're really excited about it. And the main event wrestling, yeah, Reno Riggins and Stephen Dunn, the Vols, the Tennessee Vols, yeah, that was a good show. But jumping back into this one, I don't know what else to say about it. We're just really happy to do it. We're really excited. If you're any type of wrestling fan and you know anything about the history of pro wrestling, this is where you're going to want to be on June 1st. So
June 1st it is. Farewell to the Fairgrounds. Overdrive and House of Hardcore presents Farewell to the Fairgrounds. Tickets, once again, houseofhardcore.net. Frank, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, man.
Eli, thank you so much for having me. Hope you guys will come to the show.
I'm going.
Oh, man, such a lot of stuff to get to today on the show, and yeah.
I appreciate you for catching me off guard with that intro there.
I had to.
I'll be prepared next time, I promise.
You never know what's going to happen on this show, especially you never know who's going to stop by, so special thanks to Frank Griffin for stopping by. Don't forget, you can still get your tickets. It's not until June 1st, but Farewell to the Fairgrounds, Overdrive, and House of Hardcore presents that big show. Tickets available at houseofhardcore.net. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for now.
Yeah, good show.
You got anything? By the way, if you are on social media, we finally have an Instagram page.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. You can follow it. It's Battleground Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you follow us, tell your friends. Also, download other episodes of the podcast. Jim Ross has been on, Adam Page has been on, Bob Saget's been on. Literally, You never know who's been on this show. You're just going to have to go back and listen and download all of them, give them a 5-star review. Also, download Eli's podcast, which is
Music City Horror.
boom, right there. You can follow me. I'm on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Battle on Air.
I think it's still Eli M. Phipps, Phipps. If you go to the Battleground podcast page, you should have it on there.
It'll be right there, so make sure you follow all of us right there. And I'm not sure who we have next week on the show, but we're just going to talk wrestling again next week because that's what we're good at.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
See you guys next week.